welcome to another episode of Age of Mythology Retold Triggers. Today will be a bit of a quick-fire video as I list the unit command effects in Age of Mythology Retold. What I mean by this is I'm going to be going through the triggers that are prefixed with the word unit to tell you all about them, what they do, and show you some examples. So, unit and modifier and adjust modifier. We've actually used this one already in our last video when we talked about how to make units stronger. This one, as a recap, would modify a single unit to make it harder, better, faster, stronger, as required by what you put in. Unit adjust modifier will adjust the modifier that you've done previously, so that's how it's possible to change that modifier. Apply effects. Fairly straightforward. You select a unit and you can apply one of the various in-game effects to it, such as stun after tremor, chaos type god power, freezing from a frost giant, or petrification from a Medusa. You can specify the time for this as well. Apply effect with proto unit is slightly different, as you can actually attach different units on, and the duration in seconds is how long that lasts for before the unit dies. So let's attach an Amarna to the Colossus and let's stun our villager for 6 seconds and see what happens. So that Amarna has been attached to the Colossus and will follow it around until 5 seconds expires, and death. You can see my villager was stunned and unmovable for the duration of that. With attaching, if you're going to attach SBC campaign heroes, as what's happened there, just remember when they die they can be revived and then they won't still be attached. So this attach only works when units are alive. Moving down, effects with damage. So this is how we can damage a unit over time. So if we choose our Colossus and again choose 5 seconds and have 50 damage, we can choose the type of damage. So hack will go through hack armor, pierce through pierce armor, crush through crush armor. Divine is essentially pure damage, so this will do a fixed amount of damage. If I did hack damage and the Colossus had, for example, 50% hack armor, half of this would be absorbed. Let's use divine and show you what happens. So our Colossus is losing health and will continue to lose health for the duration of 5 seconds. 5 times 50 is 250 divine damage. That's how much we have inflicted upon our Colossus. If I go back and change that into hack, as I've said, we'll still be expecting to do the 250 damage over the 5 seconds. However, with the Colossus having 50% hack armor, this should be reduced to 125 damage in total. And you can see that's exactly what happens. Unit change name. This one's quite a useful one, so this will allow you to change the name of a unit when you click on it. Unit change type is also very useful. This will change your unit into something else. So I could change my villager into an Achilles, and I'm going to change the name of my Colossus. I'll show you these ones because these are quite important ones and will form the basis of most of what people do in their maps. So you can see, instead of a villager, we now have a lovely Achilles. That's the name of the unit there. With Colossus, it's now no longer called Colossus, he's called Big Guy, as per the trigger. Next one's construct building is fairly similar, so this will only work on villagers, and you need to actually have the building to be able to construct it. So if you asked the unit to construct an Amarna, that's an invalid command, and that's not going to work because you can't place the foundations for Amarna, so nothing will happen there. With the buildings, you have got a list, so we could use armory as an example here. If I go back into my effect and change from Amarna to armory, then again you see that this armory isn't being built. This because this trigger follows the age limitation, so it's essentially trying to place something in it. So let's change it to a house, because this can be built in age 1. The house, our villager will build the house. a few things to be mindful of with that trigger, so that's why you're getting some pitfalls there if your unit isn't building. It also is only going to work on units that can build. It's no use asking the Colossus to do it, for example. Unit convert will change the ownership of a unit to any other player, so we can have this currently owned by player 1 Colossus decide to convert to player 2 and then attack the villager. Unit create, also a very useful one, so this will instantly create the unit at the target area. You've got a few conditions such as the heading, and that just corresponds to the direction the unit's looking at, so the heading is essentially rotating the unit like that. And you can skip the birth animation as well, so you don't get the hero glow, you just get the unit suddenly appearing. Unit create multiple will accomplish the similar thing. You don't have the same skip birth animation, but you can specify more units. So if I show you the difference here, we can have 10 Amanras spawning there, and then we'll have one single Amanra spawning over here with a different heading of 180 degrees and skipping the birth animation. So you see, with the birth animation we had the hero glow, we've got 10 over here, and just one over here. This one is facing 180 degrees, this one is facing 0 degrees. Moving along, so unit damage. One's quite useful one, so this will just do direct damage on a unit in much the same way as we did previously. This is all done in one instance. It's divine damage, so it will knock through any armour regardless of a unit's armour stat. Same thing with damage by percent, except this will damage a unit by a percentage value. Anything over 100 will obviously kill the unit regardless of how strong it is. You can't put negatives in here to heal a unit. That comes as a separate trigger as unit heal, which is slightly down here below. We'll come back to that one later. Unit delay transform. This one's a bit of a badly worded one in my opinion, so this will change the state of a unit for a unit that can have a state change. For example, the rock now has a flying state where it's transporting the tent, and it has a landing state where units can get in the tent and garrison in there. So it's transformed from a ground state to the flying state, so that's what happens with that one. Disable conversion and disable deletion do what they say on the tin, which is nice. So disable conversion, you can't be converted by priests or monks or other units. Disable deletion, the unit can't be deleted. And this one doesn't seem to have any target, so I assume this means actually all units, as we'll find out. And unit flash will make the unit flash. Let's show you all of these at once. So with our rock we've got the flashing unit, and you can see its transformed state, so that's landed. And then garrison in, and then if we change state manually, we've got our flying rock. So that's what that one means. With disable deletion, I am pressing the delete key. I can't delete the unit, so it does appear that it applies for all units, so that one you won't be able to delete any of your units at all. Moving down again, we've mentioned garrisoning, so we can ask our units to garrison in valid targets. This will only work if the unit is actually able to be garrisoned in there. The Colossus or the columns won't be able to garrison in the hill fort. This will make our unit walk towards the hill fort and garrison inside. There's also an instant version of this where this unit will teleport and garrison immediately inside the hill fort. I'll create another villager so we can see the difference between these triggers. Again, valid units only, so you can't have things like boats garrisoning in houses. So you'll see that we've instantly got one villager teleporting in, and the other one will walk and then garrison in. Your valid target must be able to contain units, otherwise that trigger won't work for you. Next, after G, we come to H, so this is the heal that we've mentioned before, so this will just restore units' health, absolutely. Unit highlight, Slightly different to Flash, it will just highlight the unit in that white colour that we saw rather than the flash on and off. Unit kill, fairly self-explanatory, does 100% damage. Make invulnerable is an interesting one. So if this is set to true, it means the enemy will not be able to even attack that unit or damage it. You as a player can still delete it, but enemies won't be able to make a dent on there. So if we put down some enemies, let's see what happens here. So our Colossus will die, but it's flashing, so you've got that nice effect there. Our enemy Arcantos is going to the hill fort and can kill the fort, but our villager was set to invulnerable, so can't even be attacked, can be deleted by the player. Make passive will just do the passive stance, so it means that that unit shouldn't be auto-attacking. Modify resource inventory, bit of an odd one, so this will again affect valid units that can carry resources and give them a resource to carry. So in this example, you'll see our villager is carrying 1 gold. They could drop that resource off. So they've managed to gain those resources without mining them. Again, this has got to be within the limit of what a unit can carry. You saw that they have a maximum of 10 gold. If I'd have put more than 10 gold in, it would have defaulted to 10, unless you've modified the carry capacity with the modify proto unit effect instead. Unit move. These are all quite important, so there's a few different ones that essentially do the same thing. You can ask a unit to move to a certain point. You can ask it to move to a unit. You can ask everything to move within a certain radius of that unit to a point or a unit. So this will ask both the villager and the Colossus to move because they're within the 10 radius of this column. Again, this display radius tick is really useful here. You may have seen on the other unit moves that there's in these ones the ability to make your unit run. If you turn this on and put a speed in, the unit will move a high factor speed compared to what they can usually do, ignoring their speed limit. You've also got attack move if you want them to attack anything. So with this one, our Colossus is running quite fast to the target and our villager is moving as per area. That command was initially given to the Colossus, but then it was told to run because my unit move comes after the move from area. That's why the order of these effects is important, and you've got the ability to move them up and down. Very similar to moving is patrolling, so you can just ask the unit to move to a certain area. You could have them running. Again, let's make the villager do it this time. And this time with patrol, the unit is going to move to the area as specified before, then they're going to move back and forth and back and forth, and they're just going to keep doing that the whole time. Villager seems to be getting faster there, that's quite funny. In between these I missed out a command because it was flowing on nicely from move, which is unit mutate. This is very similar to change unit type, however it does preserve some properties such as scale and health. You can change that with that ball button there. Unit perform action. Again, this depends on what action your unit has. So when you select a unit, you've got a list of actions the unit can perform, and you can specify a target unit or a target area depending on the action. Bypass charge would affect something like the Anubite jump, for example, where it's a special ability that recharges, so you get your Anubite to jump somewhere without any regard for if that ability is on cooldown or not. Again, similar with this trigger, so you could ask your unit to find Ajax and do attacks there. Again, very similar to what's been said before. Form transformation is again another badly worded one. This will affect any units that can transform, such as an Arcus to an Arcus hero or a dwarf into a berserk. They will then perform that transformation instantly, regardless of player resources. You've got to be able to be of the correct culture for this to work. Because I'm Greek in this scenario, my Arcus or my dwarves can't perform this transformation. Remove essentially destroys the unit, removes it from the map instantly, so it wouldn't have a death animation, it would just cease to exist. Unit reposition is essentially a teleport where you can move a unit to a certain area. You can specify if it's immediate in the game frame. Disable tying will ignore height limits, but you can't really do too much with this option in the editor, as you can't specify a floating point in the editor. So my Colossus was immediately removed. My villagers started ignoring height limits, so it started to behave a bit unusually. So you see they're no longer tied to a ground, they're actually tied to a certain point. Movement's still going to have an effect, but you get some strange behaviours from this one. Or maybe there's just been a lot of snow. That's if you enable tying, so if you're going to use it as a teleport, you probably should make sure that tying is enabled, unless you've got good reason not to with what you want to accomplish. Rotating gives you some advanced transform capabilities in the editor, so you can make your units move around different axes. Unit select will make any player select that unit. Set animation will get a unit performing an animation. This is very similar to the object animation viewer, where you can change a unit's animation. Essentially the same thing, where you will loop that or just have them perform that animation once. It's quite a long list of them on there. These are all fairly similar. So unit set hit points, you can specify the exact hit points you want a unit to have. Scale and shading is quite fun as well. So scale, you can make the unit bigger or smaller depending on the values you put in here. 1 means no change, 0.5 is half as much, 2 is twice as big. So I'll have a big villager with 1 hit point and 1 colossus. Set shading is quite fun as well. So you can specify a unit to change one of these 5 shades that the game has provided. So I'll just put all of these on here. You can have different combinations of these, and you can go for more than 100 to get some quite interesting effects. So as you can see, we've got a big gold villager with 1 hit point. We've got a smaller colossus in comparison. Someone's been on the tanning bed. And you've got all these columns with the bronze, stone, frost and burnt appearance. If we modify those numbers, as I've said you can do before, you can get some quite interesting effects. So if we make them all 500 instead of 100, so you can see again we've got some rather interesting textures on these columns now. Again, this is how you can make things really pretty in the editor. Units variation is using units that have more than 1 model, such as Greek villager that has a male and female model. This applies to other villagers as well. So you can see now we've got the male model and the female model. Set stance does what it says on the tin. Set veterancy back. This is only applicable to 2 units in the game, I believe, Hydra and Skiller, which gain more heads depending on how many units they kill. This allows you to increase the number of heads that that unit will have. Unit stop current action will make the unit stop the action it's currently performing, so that could be building, mining, attacking, moving. It's essentially an all stop. Unit task will make the unit work, so the villager could work on the tree. The colossus could also work on the tree. The colossus could work on an enemy unit. That's another way you can get something to attack. Teleport, again very similar to reposition, but no nonsense, does what it says on the tin. Unit turn to face direction. again, simple, does what it says on the tin. Unit Ungarrison will make anything that's garrisoned inside the unit jump out, so all the villagers that may have been in there will be jumping out. And the last one to end on is Unit Throw. This is quite a fun one, so you can specify the direction, how far you want to throw, how many bounces it's going to do, how high it's going to go, the speed of it, and the spin period. I'm just going to show you this for different units and different parameters. So that concludes our unit commands. Long video, hope it's been useful. Mainly you can use it to look through the list and see what happens. What happened there, that Colossus actually bounced off a tree because it went so high. The unit must have a valid landing location, so because that river's there, not sure if we're going to make it over. Whee! And we bounced off the tree there. This looks utterly ridiculous, but this is the sort of fun thing you can do in custom maps, and what a way to cross a river in style. I'll see you next time for more videos.